Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm really excited to bring you this video. I am going to be giving you all 35 tips for the new lightsaber combat system, which is going to help you to dominate all of your lightsaber duels in the hero modes. Now this is going to start off, it's going to be a very long list, so I'm not going to do too much of an introduction, but I want to say a huge shout out to the Star Bazaar, Paul, John, and Michael, who all helped me capture this gameplay this morning and helped me figure out all of these tips that I could pass on to you guys. Anyways, I'm going to get right into it, and the first tip is going to be, this is no longer a swing spammers game. Swing spamming is not going to get you very far in this mode, as now it relies purely on stamina and skill, which is pretty much now only drained by attacking and blocking incoming attacks. So tip number one is going to be, do not be a swing spammer. Number two is what I mentioned just before. Stamina is now drained by attacking and blocking attacks. Putting up your block without being attacked by an enemy will no longer drain stamina, so you will have a little bit more during lightsaber duels. Number three, the tip is no stamina equals no block or attack. If you drain your stamina completely, you have nothing. You are completely defenseless and you cannot go on the offensive either. So basically dodge or jump and move around to get out of that situation. To stack on top of not being a swing spammers game anymore, 2 to 3 swings max is what you want to be using and moving on and starting over. If you do this, you're going to be a lot more effective in lightsaber combat, because if you try to stand there and swing away, it's probably not going to work. Most of the time, if you land one hit, you can hit a second, but the third one is always risky and puts you into the situation where you could take damage yourself. So I definitely suggest 1 or 2 swings first. If you land those 2 and you think you can get a third, definitely try it. But if not, dodge out of the way and then restart your process and start again. The next tip comes from SammyBoii's video, and if you haven't seen it yet, I will link it down below. This tip is that you can almost always land a second hit. If you connect with the first hit in a lightsaber duel, you will most likely hit the second time. So make sure you take that second hit, which definitely applies to my last tip as well, 2 to 3 swings max before dodging and starting over. Tip number 6 is that you're going to be relying heavily on getting behind your opponent. This is going to be the most effective way to deal damage to your opponent and win these lightsaber duels. It's no longer a front-facing game, you do have to get in and behind them. That's how you're going to do the bulk of your damage. Tip number 7 is going to be to hit when your enemies dash or dodge. This is a timing thing, guys. You want to look for when your enemy is going to be attacking you or moving to the side. That's probably when they're not going to be blocking, so that's when you want to aim to land a lightsaber strike. Tip number 8 is going to be what I like to call the forward back dash. So this is going to involve 2 dashes from you. If you are very close in combat with someone, they are right in front of you and you guys are in essentially a block off. You guys are both standing there with your block up. Try dashing forward through your enemy and then dashing backwards again. This is going to cause them to turn around, and that way when you dash backwards, you're behind your enemy and you can land a couple of easy strikes. Tip number 9 is to keep your sensitivity high for lightsaber duels. If you play with a sensitivity of around 60, maybe up it a little bit so that when you're lightsaber dueling, you can turn and get your block in faster, especially if these enemies are trying to dance around you with their dodges. It's a really good counter for mind trick as well. If Obi-Wan hits you with the mind trick, you cannot use a dodge, so you're going to have to be able to turn around very quickly if he gets in behind you, so having a higher sensitivity will definitely help for this. Tip number 10 is to use a combination of dashes and jumps to regain your stamina. Like I said, in lightsaber duels now, stamina is the most important thing. So if you run out of stamina and you're completely drained, you are defenseless. You need to get out of that situation, and you can use dashes or jumps to regain that stamina so you can get back into the fight quicker. Tip number 11, keep eyes on your health and your stamina as well. I know a lot of these tips stack up on top of each other, but they are important as their own, and each one comes with a specific piece of information that's going to help you win these duels. You don't necessarily have to be at full health to go in and attack. You can be a little bit lower, but make sure you're keeping an eye on it so that you don't lose to something silly. Also keep an eye on your enemy's stamina so that they don't get the upper hand. If they're close to dying, you can essentially finish them off, but you need to play it smart. Do not just charge in there and look to take the kill. Tip number 12 is to be aware of saber lock, and for those of you that are asking me in the live streams what saber lock is, once the enemy lands one strike, they're probably going to land multiple. So dashing backwards doesn't always help, because sometimes it does lock onto your hitbox and you tend to take 4, 5, 6 strikes in one go. So if that happens, you're essentially going to die. So be aware of this and make sure you can look to dodge through your opponent instead of going backwards. That way the saber lock doesn't always connect. The next tip is going to be knockdowns equal no block. So from now, if you can get your enemy on the ground, they can no longer block from that position. If they hit the floor with like a heroic might or a repulse or something like that, you can follow up with another lightsaber strike and that will take out another hit on your enemy. The next tip is to do with movement, and dashing through or to the side of your enemy to avoid that saber lock that we just mentioned is going to be a huge help for you in not taking damage. If you feel yourself starting to get hit hit multiple times, you need to dodge either forwards or to the side to stop this from happening. I've found a lot of times when I go to dash backwards, it still ends up hitting me, so be very aware that that can happen. Tip number 15 is to look to trick your opponent. Keep an irregular movement pattern and don't repeat the same things over and over, otherwise you get predictable and readable and your lightsaber style then becomes easy to match. If they know what your movements are or how you tend to use your abilities in combination, they can read what you're going to do and essentially counter it. The next tip is no fight is over until your enemy has no health. If your enemy has a little bit of health, they are still in this fight. They can block their way until they health regen, and with how some of the heroes are in this game, they can take down your health extremely quickly. There were some situations during these lightsaber duels where I had a lot of health and the enemy had very little, and we ended up exchanging. They ended up with more health than I had and I ended up with less, and it definitely becomes tricky from that situation. So nothing is over until the enemy is fully defeated. Speaking of the comebacks from low health, Obi-Wan is one in particular. I had one where I was extremely low health with Obi-Wan and I managed to come all the way back to win the lightsaber duel. So this is just a pure example of that happening in action. The next tip is to read your opponent's movement patterns and ability combos. This is the opposite of the tip that I just gave you where I said you need to keep irregular patterns. You need to watch out for the patterns of your enemy so that you know what they're doing and what abilities they use in combination so that you can take them out easier by countering those attacks. Another tip to think about is in terms of abilities, you need to be taking into consideration how long it's been since an opponent last used their abilities. If someone has an ability that hasn't been used in a while, they're likely looking to use it, especially abilities like Vader's Force Choke. This can be a game changer. If you're pushing in on Vader and he catches you in that choke, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because you think about it, he gets damage for the choke, he knocks you to the ground, and then he can follow up with another attack. This is going to be a turn of the tides for you if you have the upper hand. You probably won't have it for long after that happens. Another tip is to try not to tank damage. Use your movement as the key. That is how you're going to avoid taking damage. If you try to tank through hits, it's not going to work. You're going to end up very low, and you want to keep your health regeneration as high as possible. Some of the heroes in the game have very good health regeneration, so you want to be taking advantage of that and not letting it get all the way down so you have to regen to half your health. Now the following tips are going to be advantages and disadvantages, which include hero specific tips. So all those first tips were just general stuff. The next few are going to be all hero related. The first one is going to be avoid engaging while Dooku's abilities are activated. The fact that duelist and expose weakness are very effective against heroes can lead to you dying extremely quickly, and you guys will probably see this happen in the gameplay in the background. There will be a few situations where either myself playing Dooku or who I'm going up against playing Dooku will get the upper hand just by using these abilities and landing a couple of quick hits. Vader and Grievous both have very low stamina, so you need to play it smart. Make sure you're recharging this back to full before you go and engage again, and keep an eye on the stamina while you are attacking. Heroes like Rey, Obi-Wan, and Luke have high stamina on the light side, and Kylo and Dooku also have very high stamina on the dark side. So these guys are going to have the advantage in lightsaber combat from the start, so look to use them whenever possible. An advantage for Count Dooku is that he also has 3 dashes. He is the only hero in the game that has 3, and it puts him at a massive advantage in terms of dueling. We know Count Dooku is an extremely good duelist, so this definitely plays to that background of his. The next tip is to be aware that Obi-Wan and Rey both have great reach. This means that they can close the distance very quickly in terms of using their dash abilities. These can be extremely powerful, and if you let them hit you, and especially Rey's, if she knocks you to the ground, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. So make sure you're always dodging or blocking when you see these abilities coming. Another one to go off the list is that Obi-Wan's mind trick will almost always be a kill on Darth Maul. Darth Maul not having a block is essentially a pain in the butt, because if you are playing him and you get hit with Obi-Wan's mind trick, not only can you not use your abilities, which is going to be heavily relied on as this spin, he can no longer dodge either. So you basically have free reign to run at him and attack him, and he's probably going to go down very quickly. The following tip is very similar to the forward back dash that I was talking about earlier, except it is Rey and Obi-Wan's dash forwards with their abilities and then dash back again. So if you charge forward with the dash ability and then hit the enemy once, dash backwards as they turn around and then hit them again in the back. Anakin's Passionate Strike is essentially a cheat code in all of the hero duels. The fact that it can break a lightsaber block and knock you to the ground as well always leads to a follow-up hit that's going to have you at very low health, and in my opinion, I don't think this Passionate Strike should knock heroes to the ground. For the heroes that don't have blocks like Yoda and Maul, they rely heavily on movement, so if you do end up playing some of these, which you probably will if you play Hero Showdown because there aren't enough lightsaber heroes with blocks to play all the rounds, if you end up playing one of these characters, you're going to have to move around a lot. The heroes with blocks are at a huge advantage in the new lightsaber combat system, so make sure you never stand still as these characters and move around as much as possible. This next one probably seems like something very simple, and it is to equip star cards that give you bonus stamina and unequip the damage cards that take away your stamina. Like I said right at the start of this video, guys, the stamina is the biggest thing in lightsaber combat. So if you have cards attached that can boost it, that's a good thing. If you have cards attached that are going to lower it, that is not a good thing. So you want to make sure you get these ones out of there and use the ones that are going to help boost them, like the star card that Kylo Ren has. The final tip for this is that the best duelists in the game are probably Rey and Anakin on the light side and Count Dooku and Kylo Ren on the dark side. Now, Kylo might not be considered one of the highest damage output characters in the game, but his high stamina and his abilities in combination are very effective, and Dooku, Rey, and Anakin all have great damage as well as great abilities and high stamina as well. So these are the characters you want to go to if you're looking to win lightsaber duels. Now, the bonus tip that I can give you is just practice, practice, practice. And yes, this is common sense, but the more you do it, the more you're going to be able to read your opponents, the more you're going to get used to using these things in combination together and what you need to look out for when you need to watch your stamina, and you're going to also learn the heroes that you're playing a lot better. I feel like I have much better control now after playing it for a few hours over a lot of the heroes that I didn't have before. So guys, that has been 35 bonus tips for the new lightsaber combat system, with 1 or 2 bonus ones thrown in there as well. It may not have been exactly 35, but hopefully this abundance of tips can help you guys out in dominating your lightsaber duels in the future. Like I said, shout out to Star Bazaar, Paul, John, and Michael for helping me with the gameplay and getting used to the idea of the new lightsaber system so that I can get these tips out for all of you guys. I know it was a long video, so I'm going to wrap it up right here. If you enjoyed it and it did help you, smash that thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for future Star Wars Battlefront 2 videos. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I am the Twisted Jedi, and may the Force be with you always.